What's up, guys? It's Zach, the Celtics guy here. I'm back with another video, and here with episode 12 of my legal lessons videos. So in the midst of writing another story for the Kingdom of the Pogo Islands, particularly with regards to the South Island, I figured I'd come on here and talk about the laws with regards to the South Island's laws on armed robbery, and my thoughts on the penalties for armed robbery and so forth. My thoughts on the penalties for armed robbery are very stringent, and rightfully so, because I think in general robbery is a very serious crime in general. It literally involves theft with force and violence, and armed robbery is just doing that with a weapon or with a firearm. So, I mean, it's one of the most serious crimes that you could imagine. The literal fear of somebody being seriously injured, if not killed. So I think we need to punish armed robbery extraordinarily severely and involve decades in prison. And yes, on the Kingdom of the Pogo Islands, under my authority and under the laws of individual islands, yes, armed robbery is punished with decades in prison. Even on the most liberal islands in the Pogo Islands, it is punished by decades in prison. But the laws today regard the South Island, one of the most conservative islands in the Pogo Islands. Armed robbery is considered to be a felony triable only on indictment. Armed robbery is defined as follows under the South Island Code of Laws. And defines armed robbery, South Island Code of Laws. I'm looking up the statute here. The statute for armed robbery on the South Island, South Island Code of Laws, Title 4, Chapter 2, Subchapter 4, Section 34, states, every person who, while being armed with or pretending to be armed with any offensive weapon or instrument, or at the time of immediately before or immediately after such robbery, uses any personal violence to any person, while robbing or assaulting with intent to rob any person, is said to commit the offense of armed robbery. Every person who commits the offense of armed robbery shall be guilty of a felony and liable to imprisonment with penal labor for not less than 15 years, nor more than 100 years, which shall be served without eligibility for parole, early release, or suspension of sentence, along with judicial corporal punishment of not less than 10 lashes or strokes. Because I also believe in judicial corporal punishment the way that Singapore and Malaysia do it, with regards to brutal crimes. So yes, I vehemently support that. So basically this means that on the Commonwealth of the South Island, which is what the South Island is called on the Pogo Islands, you will end up in the South Island Penitentiary doing hard labor for at least 15 years. And depending on your sentence, it could be for the rest of your life, if you seriously injure someone or you have previous violent convictions. Because 100 years without parole is, without a doubt, without any shadow of a doubt in the world, a de facto life sentence. And I don't think it's illogical to impose these sentences. I really don't. Not for some crime like this. But I think you all know my stances on crime. This is one of the areas that I take a more moderate / conservative approach than I do to maybe some of my more liberal listeners and so forth. But yes, I am tough on crime, but crimes that should be actual crimes, like this, like crimes that have a victim. I mean, I know I've said that multiple times. I've said this 1,000 times. I'm probably going to say it 1,000 more times in the future, but just to be clear and just to be on the record about that. Every single island has different laws in the Pogo Islands. They can't all be the same. They can't have parole on some islands and then not have parole on others. It has to be, it's different because the Pogo Islands is a federation, and you get what it is. It literally has islands that differ from one island to the other. So, but they're consistent with what I believe in. They're consistent with my views. So like armed robbery on the Aqua Island carries between 10 years and life in prison. Whereas on the South Island, it carries 15 to 100 years without parole. So that means as little as 15 years, but 15 years is a very, very long time. And I think personally, 15 years should be the bare minimum that you should face for armed robbery. Bare minimum. Okay, yeah, maybe 10. Okay, maybe for good behavior, 10. But nothing less than that. 10 at the bare minimum. Not 1 year less than 10. Okay, because the Aqua Island is between 10 years to life in prison. And yes, we also authorized the death sentence on the Aqua Island as well for some of the most aggravated crimes like first-degree murder and so forth. Well, to be fair, every Pagosian island authorizes the death sentence in one form or another one. But the Aqua Island does allow the death penalty for the most brutal, heinous, and cruel robberies committed with like wanton violence. And like just one of the most brutal robberies that you can imagine, like that would be like shooting someone in the eye and then they suffer a permanent crippling disability. Okay, some armed robbery like that, I think you should, I don't think the death penalties are logical for that. Like, I'm not just talking a simple robbery should get you the death sentence or should get you life in prison. No, I'm not saying that. I mean, I think brutal and aggravated robberies deserve life in prison. And I think even armed robbery deserves life in prison I think it should. I think it should. And you know what I say? If you do it the second time, you should be put away for life. Actually, on the Central Island, we do allow you to go to jail for life. Or even get the death sentence on the second offense for the most serious crimes. It's called one and done. The one and done law on the Ceruelan Island authorizes the death penalty for those convicted of a second time of the most severe violent offenses. 13 of the most violent offenses. 7 of them are called the 7 deadly sins. 13 of the bad offenses, the worst strikes, the worst offenses. Second strike, second count, whatever you want to call it, gets you the death sentence. That's how it goes on the Ceruelan Island. So it carries 15 to 25 years on the Ceruelan Island with no possibility of early release. You will serve 100% of your time. Whether you get 15 years, 25 years, life in prison, you'll spend the rest of your life in prison if you're not put to death. And if you're put to death, it's for the most brutal, aggravated robberies. So the Aqua Island also authorizes the death penalty or up to life in prison, whereas the South Island, it's 15 to 100 years, with 15 years being the bare minimum with no possibility of early release. So generally speaking, I think robbery as an offense, if it's unarmed, then, I don't know, maybe any number of years, but allow a maximum of life in prison. Only if there's aggravated factors. If it's like a simple robbery, then maybe a few years, maybe 5 years or something. Maybe like 2.5 to 5 years and something like that. But allow a maximum of life in prison. Maximum doesn't mean mandatory. When it says a maximum of life in prison, like imprisonment in the island's prison for any number of years or for life, just means you can permit any number of years for armed robbery. You can have 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, whatever. But I think you should allow, in the most brutal and aggravated robberies, even if it doesn't involve a weapon, it should be up to life in prison. Still. And if you do it the second time, the Aqua Island allows a mandatory minimum prison Aqua Island sentence of not less than 4 years with no possibility of early release. And your second armed robbery gets you, it's a minimum 10 years, the death penalty or imprisonment in the island's prison for life or for any number of years, but not less than 10 years, and that cannot be reduced or suspended. And the second time gets you 20, and then the second time gets you a minimum of 20 years to life. And 20 years to life if you do it with a firearm, 25 years to life on the second offense, all served in an Aqua Islands prison. Meaning it's in an island's prison. It's in one of those correctional facilities where you're gonna go in there, you're gonna do your time, and that's the way it's gonna be. You're going to go into prison, you're going to earn a living in prison, and you're going to work, and you're going to literally work, and you're going to do paid penal labor where you learn about hard work and about how you stole from others. You stole from someone, you robbed somebody, okay, well then we're going to make you go to hard labor so that way you can work and make yourself a living, so that way you know the effects of hard work and what it's like to take something that you didn't earn. You didn't earn it, you didn't take it. I cannot stand robbers, I can't stand thieves, okay? I cannot, okay? I cannot stand those types of people. I fucking can't. Okay, I don't give a shit who you are or what the situation is. You don't fucking steal. I fucking hate thieves. I hate robbers. I hate people who take from others in general. But no, robbery should be punished vehemently, severely. And I would allow sentences ranging from maybe a few months to a few years for simple robberies, up to decades and decades in prison, or life in prison, or in the extreme cases, maybe even death. If let's say if you commit an armed robbery and you cause someone serious physical injury, just a brutal injury, you slash someone in the face with a knife, okay, or something like that, that should allow the death sentence. That's one of the most brutal crimes that you could imagine. And the Pogo South Island doubles the original prison sentence. If you commit an armed robbery with a firearm or a gun or a semi-automatic, any type of firearm on the South Island involving an armed robbery will get you double the prison sentence. So that means that on this island, if you commit armed robbery with a firearm, the minimum's 15 years, the maximum is 100. Double that. You'll face 30 years minimum, up to a maximum of 200 years. 200 years in prison, maximum, for armed robbery with a firearm. That would normally only be imposed if, say, this was an armed robber that was like a repeat offender, convicted of like a one and done or count of three. It was like their second or third count or strike or whatever for a violent crime or something. 200 years, and this would be without the possibility of early release, because armed robbery does not come with parole on the South Island, and nor should it. Okay, nor should it. I'm not even a fan of parole in general, because why should you not go to prison for a crime? And I'm only talking about crimes that should be crimes, just to be clear, that have a victim. Why should you not go to prison and serve all of your time? Why shouldn't there be truth in sentencing? I'm sorry, I mean, maybe this makes me conservative on this issue, I don't know, okay? But I don't think it's illogical. You go to prison, you get 6 months. Why should you get out in 3? It doesn't make any sense. Why should you earn good time? Why should you earn, good behavior, whatever? Isn't that what you're supposed to do? I thought that's what you were supposed to do. Aren't you supposed to behave in prison, and if you don't, you'll have an issue or whatever? No, I don't. I think when you go to prison, you should do your time. You should do your time and the time that you earned going to prison. And again, I'm not talking about stupid, petty shit. I'm not talking about, nonviolent drug offenses. I'm against the drug war. I'm against locking people up for fucking having a little bit of drugs or marijuana on them. I don't believe in that shit. But when it comes to actual brutal crimes like murder, rape, robbery, everything else, no. Mayhem, no, those people need to do time. They need to do serious time. Habitual reoffending? No, those people need to do time, okay? Those are the people that need to do time, okay? And I think this is a pretty moderate position. I don't think this is an extreme position. But no, I do in fact think that a sentence for armed robbery with a firearm should be doubled. And if it allows up to 100 years, then make it 200 years, okay? It's pretty obvious that they are beyond anybody's help. Because somebody who commits an armed robbery with a firearm literally is showing that they have no regard for innocent human life. They literally are using a firearm in a public place to rob somebody with. So doesn't that tell you that they are an extreme threat? They are armed and dangerous, and they should go to prison for decades and decades? And that, yes, they should. It should be up to double. It should be doubled. If the presumptive sentence is 15 to 100 years, like it is on the Pogo South Island, that I make it that way, then make it 30 to 200 years. Okay, I don't think that this is illogical. I really don't. I would give them that. With the Pogo Islands, we've given suspended sentence. We've given sentences that are not suspended. We've given sentences from 104 years. We had a South Island armed robber that got 104 years. 100 years for an armed robbery where he slashed someone in the face with a knife in a Kanjon City National Bank. Slashed someone in the face with a knife. He got 100 years for that armed robbery, plus an extra 4 concurrent years for possession of a dangerous weapon in a public place. with intent to threaten or injure or alarm or annoy any person. That would be a sentence of 104 years. So if it's armed robbery with a firearm, it could be up to 200 years. 200 years. 30 to 200 years. 15 to 100. Double that for the firearm involved. Make it 30 to 200 years. I think somebody who commits an armed robbery with a firearm is an existential threat to the public. Somebody like that needs to go away for an extremely long time and serve out maybe the rest of their days in a South Island penitentiary. That's what I believe in. Or in a penitentiary of whatever island that they live on, of the Pogo Islands, the Aqua Island, whatever, 10 years to life, the death sentence, whatever. I don't think this is illogical. Okay, I don't think it's worth it. They have shown that they are not capable of living with the rest of us civilized folk if they're going to use a firearm to rob somebody. That's probably one of the most dangerous and brutal crimes that you can imagine. And therefore, they do not deserve to be kept around. And they're not going to be kept around. They're not going to be kept around under me. Okay? Because in the kingdom of the Pogo Islands, okay, in order to be a free and prosperous society, you need to be as tough on these crimes as possible. Okay? So that way you can, in fact, get them off the streets. Because if you got high crime and you don't feel safe in your own home, or you don't feel safe walking around in the city, you're not truly free, okay? You're not truly free. The freest societies in the world are the societies with the lowest crime, if you really want to think about it. Because with high crime and you don't feel safe, you're not really free. Think about it. So therefore, in the kingdom of the Pogo Islands, that's how free you are. And that's how I would make it. On the kingdom of the Pogo Islands, we are a socially liberal society, but I think that if you commit a serious crime that endangers the safety of other human beings or is a brutal crime that destroys people's lives, you need to pay a hefty price. And if it involves serving out the rest of your days in prison or a good portion of your life in prison, then I'm all for it. And that's exactly what we need to do. And I think if we had more of these sentences in the real world, you would see it. You would see these crime rates drop. Okay? You would see that. Because I believe in rehabilitation. Okay? I'm a mental health guy. I work in the mental health field. I have a behavioral analysis degree. A 4-year behavioral analysis degree, okay? So I believe in trying to rehabilitate people, getting people into therapy. I believe in that. I believe in second chances. I do. People fuck up. It's just what it is, okay? But there's certain crimes where people cannot be rehabilitated. No. Some people are beyond rehabilitation. There is 0% chance for rehabilitation with certain people. Like murderers, rapists, and things like that, robbers, and a lot of robbers and stuff. Really cannot be rehabilitated. So they deserve the most brutal sentence possible for this crime. Because when it involves crimes that destroy people's lives and there's no hope for rehabilitation, then by putting them in prison for life or for a de facto life sentence like 40, 50 years, 80 years, whatever. By the way, on the Teal Island, we punish aggravated robbery with a firearm up to 80 years in prison because it's a life felony. Maximum of no more than 80 years. Besides the point. That's how we do it, and I think that's how we need to do it, because there's people that are not eligible, that cannot be rehabilitated, and therefore they do not deserve one iota of leniency. They gave their victim a life sentence. They didn't show their victims any leniency, so why should we show them any leniency? There's certain people that just cannot be. If my position is so brutal, then why is it that the Vanguard, who is more liberal than me on a lot of issues, literally said, Gavin once said about rapists that they deserve chemical castration. And they even agree with the tough on crime approach about being tough on crime that should be crimes. Which, by the way, shout out to the Vanguard, by the way. I think that this is not an illogical position, and the Pogo Islands is tough on crime, but we're only tough on the crimes that deserve to be crimes and deserves the most severe sentences possible. So on the Kingdom of the Pogo Islands, if you commit any of these crimes like murder, rape, robbery, gang violence, mayhem, assault, whatever, you will pay a hefty price. including white-collar crimes, corruption, war crimes, oh, you will face your day in court. And when you go to a Pogosian court, whether it's on indictment, a summary conviction, or at a national tribunal, you will not see one iota of leniency for these crimes. We're not talking minor crimes. We're talking serious crimes. And the more serious the crime, the more serious the penalty is going to be. So anyway, that's about it for now. But thank you to everybody who listened. I figured I'd just come on here and make my legal lesson. Thank you to everybody who came to my stream earlier. Thank you for all the comments and all the support. I'm going to upload this and copy and paste all of the laws that I listed out here. Thank you to everybody. I appreciate it. And there'll be more streams and videos coming up soon. More stuff on the way. Stay tuned for more. And I will see you all again next time in the next stream, video, or premiere, or whatever it happens to be. And there'll be more coming up real soon. And I'll see you all again in the next video or stream, whatever it happens to be. And I'll see you all again next time. Bye for now. Stay safe. Be well. And I'll see you all again later. Be well and always be careful. This concludes another Zach's Legal Lessons, Pogo Islands edition. Peace out.